Hey friends, welcome back to the channel and welcome to a little discussion of Murakami. Now, I have not really touched on this subject since it was announced and pre-orders and all that kind of stuff, and I actually do touch on it a tad as far as my pre-orders were concerned in relation to my unboxings that I have already filmed from my Asia trip. But given the fact that we are now post-launch, I thought I would do a dedicated video to tell you about my pre-order experience, about shopping at some of the boutiques in New York on launch day and the day after launch day. And yeah, just kind of give you my thoughts on the whole thing. Let's go back to the beginning and I will tell you about my pre-order and then kind of what happened from there. So I originally spoke with my contact at Nordstrom when I knew the collection was coming out. I let him know I am very interested. I am very interested in placing a pre-order, etc. And then I would check back a couple times. I know I checked back with him maybe a week and a half or so before they actually started taking orders, because I had seen on some Instagram accounts that they were actually taking pre-orders, that they could actually see the items in the system now and that they could take orders. Well, either that wasn't the case or it wasn't the case for Nordstrom's LV. I don't know. But he did reach out then on, I believe it was December 4th. So I was technically in Asia at the time. And he reached out and said, okay, pre-orders are open. What do you want? And so I sent him the 3 items that I was interested in. He said, great. He rang me up on the Nordstrom side, and then the following day, I got an email directly from Louis Vuitton with my receipt for my deposit for those 3 items in the LV system. I placed a deposit and had confirmation from Louis Vuitton of that deposit on December 5th, which, if I understand correctly, was the time that pre-orders were open to like VVICs. Which, just so you know, I am not. But I don't know if Nordstrom was kind of going by that or what they were doing. I honestly have no idea. But I can tell you that I have a receipt for a deposit from Louis Vuitton that is dated December 5th. So as I understand it, deposits were taken kind of in a rolling format, right? So there were, I think, kind of 3 waves. So the first was the VVIC, or I think they also call them prestige clients. And then maybe I think a week after that, then they opened it to VICs and I don't know what other tier there is. And then finally, it was opened, I think maybe like the 3rd week of December, was open to just us normal folk, okay? So, but like I said, my pre-order and my payment was accepted and taken on December 5th by Louis Vuitton. So, like I said, I was in Asia at the time, and I was starting to look at pre-loved pieces, and I was looking at pre-loved Murakami pieces, obviously, and this is a little bit of a spoiler alert, but as I was seeing prices there and some of the kind of bags that I really was interested in, and interested from the standpoint of really being able to use it as opposed to it just being an art piece sitting on a shelf, the main piece that I was looking at wasn't honestly that much less than the sort of main item, bag item, I guess I should say, that I wanted from this new collection. And so my thinking was, honestly, the one that I have on pre-order is even a little more versatile than the one that I was looking at that was pre-loved. And for the not that much more money, I think I'd rather have the new one because, like I said, it does have more features and makes it more wearable in different ways. And so I ended up passing on that other item in addition to one other reason that you'll hear about in that unboxing video. But my point is, I sort of ended up passing on some potential Murakami pieces because I had placed my pre-order and I had given them my money. And then I started seeing all of these videos coming out about how the whole pre-order thing was a mess, and that even though people made pre-orders and paid deposits, that they most likely were not going to get their items. So then I reached back out to my Nordstrom contact and said, hey, with that deposit, and like I said, given the date that I made it on, right? So, when I was listening to these videos, I was hearing sort of these different dates, and I was thinking to myself, okay, well, I placed my pre-order, I paid my money during that first wave. So, I should be getting the item. And I reached out to, like I said, my Nordstrom contact and asked, and he was like, oh, no, there is nothing guaranteed with Louis Vuitton. And so I was kind of upset. I mean, maybe not upset, but I was disappointed. And so then, frankly, I didn't, again, kind of spoiler alert, I sort of shifted my buying mentality, I guess, while I was in Asia to some other things, because to be very honest with you, I didn't think that I was going to be able to get my Murakami pieces, because I just, I know where I sit on the totem pole of clients, and it's not up here, okay? And I guess, even though they took my money on that date, I don't think, or sort of the response I got made it sound like I was not going to be grouped with the official group that got to pre-order that date. So anyway, that's the information I had. And so that's, like I said, then the information that I took forward sort of during the last half of my Asia trip that then influenced what I did end up buying while I was in Asia. Obviously, you guys haven't seen that video. You probably won't see it for a while, but it did impact my purchasing after hearing that information. My Saks associate actually had sent me the lookbook about, it was probably maybe December 27th, something like that. It was like right after Christmas, so right after we got back from Asia. And she sent me the lookbook and she said, hey, like I didn't already know, we've got this new collection coming out. Are you interested? So I reached out to her and said, yeah, actually, there are two pieces that I'm really interested in. So the third piece that I had already put a deposit down for Nordstrom, I kind of started thinking I'm not really sure that I really want that piece, but the other two were definite pieces that I wanted from the collection. And so those are the two pieces that I told my Saks associate that I wanted. And so she said, okay, great. We are taking deposits on December 31st in preparation for the launch. And so when I'm back in store, I'll, ring that through, whatever. So I put two items on order from Saks. Okay, so that was on December 31st or New Year's Eve day. Now let's fast forward to the launch. So this is now Friday the 3rd. So I looked sometime kind of in the middle of the night on the website, and I could see that supposedly stores in New York had stock. Okay, so I was sort of planning what I was going to do on launch day. In New York, we had a Soho dedicated Murakami pop-up that was connected. It's connected to the actual Louis Vuitton store, but they do a lot of different like collab pop-up kind of things for Louis Vuitton. And then obviously the new temporary flagship store on 57th obviously also was going to be a main focus for this launch. But my thoughts were, okay, Lisa, go somewhere, go to one of the stores that probably isn't going to see as much, traffic as the pop-up or even the Flagship store. Because, right, I mean, even you go to the Flagship store right now, or I mean, the week before Murakami, but before this launch, anytime, and there's a line, right? You have to queue to get into this temporary Flagship store. And so I thought, okay, so I looked at the list of who had the main handbag item that I wanted, and I saw that Bloomingdale's, that their LV had that. And I thought, okay, great. It's a department store. That's where I would prefer to buy it because I'll get points, which means then whatever I buy next will be less. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to go there. So I got up that morning, showered, got ready, and arrived at Bloomingdale's about 10 minutes or so before they opened. And there were some people standing outside, but actually, as it turned out, none of those people were going to Louis Vuitton. They were just waiting to get into Bloomingdale's. So they opened the doors, I went, then they opened the gate to get into LV. And as I walked in, I saw a few Murakami pieces sitting on the counter. And I said, I'm like, hey, yeah, I'm here for the Murakami collection. I'm here to see what you have. And then I told them what I was specifically looking for, these two particular items. Now, the one item, which was an SLG that I was looking for, to me, it didn't look like they had in stock. But the bag that I was looking for was in stock, according to the Louis Vuitton website. Now, we all know the Louis Vuitton website can be wrong when you put in the find, near me or whatever it is, in boutique near me or something like that. But, I had high hopes. So anyway, a lovely sales associate, or I guess client advisor, as Louis Vuitton calls them, was super helpful to me. And the first thing they said to me was, no, we don't have that bag. And I said, really? Because it says on the website that you do. And so she's like, really? So she looked it up and she saw it. She's like, oh yeah, you're right, it does. But then when she clicked into her system, like kind of going a level down, if you think about it that way, it showed that they were out of stock. So she's like, yeah, no, we don't have it. But she was very, very sweet, and she was able to see how many they had in stock. Like I said, this is in her system, right? Not in the Louis Vuitton website of going in and seeing who has stock. She could actually see physically how many each store had. So according to what she was seeing, they had, I think, 24 of this item at the pop-up. They had, I think, like 17 of them at the 57th Street store. So I thought, okay, great. So she's like, go there. She gave me a couple names of some people that she knew that were working at the pop-up. And I mentioned to her, I said, well, I actually do have a pre-order, but, with everything I'm hearing, I don't think I'm going to get that. And she's like, well, when did you place your order? And I told her, she's like, oh, well, you're a prestige client then. I'm like, no, I'm not. And she's like, well, show me your order. She's like, let me see if I can find you. So she looked me up in the system, and then I showed her my Louis Vuitton receipt that had been emailed to me. And she said, oh yeah, no, if you see here, she said, it says, and I'm trying to remember exactly what it said, but it was like deposit without order. I think that's what it was, something like that. So if, like I said, if I had paid attention to my receipt, I would have seen that it wasn't actually on order. And then, like I said, when she went into the actual Louis Vuitton system, she could see that my Nordstrom order, I didn't tell her about my Saks order, but my Nordstrom Louis Vuitton order, she could see had not been converted into an order yet. So it was still a deposit. So again, I'm thinking, I'm not going to get these items. I mean, if it's already, at that point, whatever time in the morning, and it hadn't been converted to an order, and based on my pre-order date, I would have thought, okay, if it's going to be converted to an order, it would have already been converted to an order. But yeah, I'm kind of giving up hope at the moment. So I thanked her very much for all of her information. Like I said, she was super, super helpful. I will definitely go back to her again at Bloomingdale's. Like I said, I thought she was fantastic. And, went back home, did some work, and then I had a doctor's appointment in the afternoon that I was going to go to that wasn't that far from the Soho pop-up. So I'll start inserting some pictures here. Unfortunately, I did not prepare very well for this little excursion to the pop-up, and my phone was about to die and I needed my phone to be able to get home. So I very sparingly took pictures, but let me tell you what was going on at the pop-up. So you basically got to the location and you stood in a line and they came up and then they put you into essentially an electronic queue. So they took your phone number, you would get a text that said, thank you for registering your interest with Louis Vuitton. When you receive your next text, you can come back and then you get in another line. And she said at that time the wait was about an hour. So I thought, okay, that's fine. And I kind of peeked through the windows. They had a couple of vintage pieces sitting in the window, which was fun. And anyway, and I thought, okay, great. I hadn't eaten anything, so I hoofed it on over to Prince Street Pizza and got some pizza. And then it was, after I was done, that line was also very long. And so I finished my pizza and then I walked back to Louis Vuitton. I think maybe I made one stop on the way back. I did. I stopped at Miu Miu because I wanted to see if they had Meredith's tote bag. They did not. Anyway, I digress. So with about, I think I got back to the Louis Vuitton location with about maybe 5 minutes left supposedly before I should be getting this text. So then I went into the main store, looked around, asked if they had a couple of other things that I was interested in. They did not. And then I just sat in that store because there was some seating there and it was freezing outside. And I thought, well, I'm not going to wait outside. And I had heard somebody say that the wait was now an hour and a half. Well, it was supposedly an hour when I had received my text, but you probably know where I'm going here. Yes, it was actually, I think, longer than an hour and a half. I think I ended up waiting maybe like an hour and 40 minutes, something like that. But I finally received my second text, which said, you've got 10 minutes basically to get back here and check in and, basically go in that other line. So I went, I got in that other line, somebody came, asked me my name, I told them, they were like, great, hang out here, and, we'll let you in. I probably only waited maybe 5 minutes in that line outside. I went in, I checked in with this lovely gentleman who was standing, inside by the door, who I think came from France for the launch. And, he asked for my phone number. And then he basically said, feel free to look around. There's this whole video presentation downstairs in the lower level, so make sure you go watch that so you understand the sort of the background behind the collection and all of that kind of thing, and see what you might be interested in. So on the first level, as like I said, you're hopefully seeing here, there was one room, like I said, that was basically dedicated to some of the vintage pieces. And there were some really amazing pieces. The one with the fringe, the Speedy, I think it was a Speedy, if I remember correctly, with the fringe. Oh my gosh, like what an amazing, amazing piece. They had basically like these sort of cubby hole things in the walls and pieces were placed there. But there were quite a few cubbies that were empty. I'm guessing they were full when they first opened the doors in the morning. By the time I got into the store, it was probably 5-ish o'clock, I would say. So I kind of walked around a little bit in the store and then I made my way downstairs, and you'll see here some footage from the little films. There were 2 different films, one about super flat and one about the multicolor. So I sat and watched that for a little bit. There were these cute little flower stools that Murakami did. Unfortunately, none of those were for sale. They were all just like display only, but super, super cute. And so I watched some of that, obviously to kill some time because I'm waiting for them to text me and say, okay, we've got a sales associate ready for you. It was a very long process and, a lot of waiting, a lot of hurry up and wait, hurry up and wait. So I went back upstairs, I made my way into one of the other rooms, and then that's actually when I happened to see the whole coffee, little kind of cafe thing. And so I went over there and got my little cookie and got my coffee, and I'll have to, well, you'll see, I'll insert pictures here, but they had these, so if you saw in the collection, they did like a Murakami coffee cup, like a kind of a to-go cup, but obviously it's in porcelain, and then it's got I think it's a leather multicolor sleeve that's on it. Well, they were doing little mini paper versions of those. Oh my gosh, yes, I did bring it home. Yes, I did save it. And then I also saved a couple of the little cocktail napkins, which all had all the multicolor on it and said, I think it said Murakami. Actually, hang on. Yeah, the napkins were right over here. So these were the napkins, the cocktail napkins. As you can see, it says Murakami or Louis Vuitton X Murakami. And yeah, so I picked up 2 of those just as little keepsakes. So yeah, so I sat there, drank my coffee, and then finally I was told that I could meet with somebody. Told him, some of the pieces that I was interested in. I had kind of forgotten about some of the other things that were a part of the collection. So, as I had time to sort of sit and look, whatever, I was like, oh yeah, I forgot about that item. Okay, I'll ask him about that, whatever. So basically, bottom line is, out of all the items that I asked about, first of all the bags were sold out. And so I asked him, I told him the story about going to Bloomingdale's and, them having supposedly 24 of the bag that I was looking for. He's like, oh yeah, no, that was not true. He's like, we saw what it said that our inventory was when we were opening. And he said, we absolutely did not have that number. He said, if I'm remembering correctly, he said, I'm pretty sure that we had, I think, either 10 or 12 of the bag that you were looking for when we opened in inventory. Like I said, when she looked in her actual system, it said they had 24. So again, I mean, Louis Vuitton, if you can't get it right even in your own system, something needs to be fixed. So I ended up looking at an SLG and then a particular accessory, and spoiler alert, I did make a purchase at the Soho store. So at the Soho store, for every purchase that you made from the Murakami collection, they gave you this token, and then again, sort of next to, but not a part of the actual store or of the pop-up, they had one of these giant, and if you guys watched my first Tokyo vlog, you will have seen, they are really, really into these like claw games and like kind of gumball machine games. I mean, they have huge stores and like arcades almost that have these machines. So they had a giant one, which, I'll pop up a picture here what it looks like. So if you made a purchase, for every purchase you made, you got a token. And what the prizes you could get were stickers, which were the most common. The next was trading cards. And then the third was an actual like Murakami Tamagotchi, which was clearly the most coveted and the most rare. But also, by the time that I was purchasing, they were out of packaging. So that sucked. So you'll see I did get the tissue paper, but I did not get the bag and I did not get the ribbon. Now, the sales associate or the client advisor said, connect with me and I'll let you know when we've got more packaging in and, you can pick some up, whatever. So I'm hoping to get the actual packaging for that item at some point. I did reach out to him yesterday. So that's how Soho went. On launch day, I reached out to my Saks sales associate because, again, when I looked online and when I looked under, stores that have this product or whatever it is, it said Saks had the bag that I was looking for. And so I texted her very early, like even I think before opening, and said, hey, I see online that it says you have stock. So does that mean I'm going to get my item? Well, I didn't hear back from her until later in the day. So this was now after I left Soho, I think is when I heard back from her, and she said, good news, I was able to put your order in. So based on what I knew from the Bloomingdale's associate, where she told me that my pre-order had not been converted into an order yet, what I was hearing now from my Saks sales associate was that my pre-order was actually now going to be able to be converted to an actual order, which, so then I, of course, followed up because I just wanted to make sure that I understood what that meant. So I asked her, I said, so does that mean I am guaranteed to get the item? And she said, yes. And I said, both items or just one? And she said, no, both items. So I thought, okay, awesome. So then now let's go to the next day. It's now Saturday, and I get a message, an email from Louis Vuitton that says, congratulations, your order has been received at the Louis Vuitton Saks location. Please come in to pick it up. Please make sure you have an ID, blah, 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 the credit card that you paid for it with, so that we can give you your items. I was like, oh my gosh, like I was so excited. And it didn't tell me if it was one item, two items, it just said your order, right? So I didn't know if it was, like I said, I assumed it was both items, but she then reached out to me later, like kind of mid-afternoon. I had, again, some other doctor's appointment. On Saturday, I had a mammogram. I'll follow up with you on that. But anyway, she texted and said, hey, your blank item is in, which was this SLG, not the handbag, is in, something about shipping it or whatever. And I said, oh, I'm actually going to be near the store later, so I'll just come pick it up. And so I went to go pick it up, and I'm thinking, okay, well, this came in. Does this mean that I'm not now going to get the other item? And I talked to like one of the other sales associates because she was on break when I came to pick it up. And I said, well, she told me that they were both able to be ordered. And he's like, oh, well, that's a good sign. Not exactly the level of confidence that I wanted to hear. Now, I was expecting to hear, oh, that's awesome. I'm so happy you're going to get your item, whatever, that's a good sign. So I thought, okay, I'm over on Fifth Avenue. I'm not that far from the Flagship. Let's go see what they have, okay? So I got to the Flagship store, and actually the line was pretty short. Now, granted, this was about, 6 maybe o'clock now on Saturday night. So, they'd been open all day. I was able to talk to a sales associate pretty quickly. And yeah, he told me, for example, that on launch day, people were in line starting at like 6 a.m. to get into the store. I'm sure they were probably online at Soho just as early. Oh, the one thing that I forgot to say was when I was texting with my Saks sales associate about picking up the item, I said, oh, and should I assume that you're out of packaging? And she said, oh no, we never got the packaging. And I was like, wait, what? She said, no, only the Soho and the Flagship store received Murakami packaging. All of the other Louis Vuitton locations in New York, we're not receiving it. And I was like, well, that sucks. I'm like, really? I said, because I've seen, other people unboxing things or, showing their packaging on IG who, weren't VVIPs or anything and weren't shopping at a Flagship or at a pop-up, right? I mean, people who were shopping in New Jersey or something. And she's like, yeah, unfortunately, it's just that's how they did New York. They only sent packaging to Flagship and to Soho. I was like, okay, well, that's great. So I'm not going to get packaging from this Saks item either. So like I said, I picked that up, went to the Flagship, got in, talked to the guy. He's like, oh my gosh, yeah, it's been crazy. I said, okay, what do you have left from the collection? And he took me over to like this little area of probably 4 drawers that he opened each one. And in each drawer, there were about, 6 to 7 items. I would say that in general, the drawers were empty. So in the SLG kind of accessory drawer, they had a few belts. They had the flat card holder that had like the crisscross, so not just the plain card holder, but like I said, the one with the crisscross. I think they had a couple of the Lisa wallets. They had quite a few of the backpacks. And when I went to Bloomingdale's, they also had the backpack. They had the backpack at Soho. I feel like they got quite a bit of inventory on the backpack, and maybe I have a feeling that the backpack wasn't quite as popular because they had quite a few of those. He did have one Speedy 20 in the super flat flowers that Lula LV just unboxed recently. I'll have her video linked below. And they had also probably 5 or 6 of the super flat floral Neverfulls. Again, not interested. So that was sort of 3 of the 4 drawers, and the 4th drawer, oh gosh, I'm trying to even remember what was in there. Nothing that I was interested in. They had no notebooks, they had no passport covers, they had no sunglasses, they had no scarves, they had nothing. They had nothing. They were cleaned out. Then I asked him about packaging because I thought, okay, because I had my bag from the Saks purchase in my hand, and I thought, maybe he'd take pity on me and actually give me some packaging. And he's like, oh no, we don't have any packaging either. We ran out of that like halfway through yesterday. Again, Louis Vuitton, where's the planning? Where is the planning? You knew how big this launch was going to be, and the planning seemed very, very poor. I looked at, some of the more kind of actual setup that they had, some, actual sort of display pieces where they had some of the keychains, sort of bag charm kind of things where they had the notebook covers and the passport covers and the Elizabeth pencil case and, things like that. They had the scarves up on the wall, obviously, but like I said, none of that was available. So yeah, that was my experience at the Flagship store. What are my feelings about this launch? I think Louis Vuitton can do better. But to be honest with you, I kind of feel like it was intentional. I don't think that this was done by accident. I think they knew exactly what they were doing. And, I think the concept of that, the collection has sold out. I've also heard, again, this is through the grapevine, this has not been confirmed by any sales associate, that they aren't going to be doing any restocks. Now, with that being said, the guy at the Soho pop-up said, I know we're going to be getting more inventory. We're open for a while still. So that pop-up, I think, is, scheduled to be open for 2-3 weeks, something like that. And to have that open and yet have no inventory for anybody to buy would be a little silly. So, maybe certain locations will be getting restocked. But, I heard that the whole online thing was a nightmare. In fact, I saw that the bag I wanted actually showed I could add it to cart. I didn't do that, though, because like I said, at that point, I was going to be going to Bloomingdale's, which supposedly had it in stock, yet they didn't. But I'm sure I wouldn't have been able to get it through the website either, because I understand that that was an absolute nightmare with people, adding things to the cart and then not being able to check out and being on hold with customer care, which doesn't surprise me, for, an hour and a half, trying to check out for hours. Just, again, a mess. Hopefully some of that, like the website things, can be resolved, before the next launches of, cherry blossoms and cherries. But I don't know that I think that they're going to be doing pre-orders any differently. It was interesting. My daughter Morgan said, I don't understand why they used Zendaya. Is it Zendaya or Zendaya? I never know the right way to say it. But she's like, why did they use her in this campaign? She's like, now all of these 20-somethings, which is how old she is, are really interested and want to get a piece from this collection, but yet they can't because they're not VVICs or whatever. And she's like, that just really seemed like stupid marketing. And I agree with her. And, I was kind of thinking about when I watched Lula's video of her unboxing and her talking about some of the issues with the launch, and how there are people that wanted to come back to LV, customers who may have left the brand several years ago because of quality issues, because of price increases, whatever, who were now excited to come back to the brand because of this relaunch. And yet they weren't able to get anything, nor were these 20-something-year-olds who were all inspired by seeing Zendaya, however you pronounce her name, in the ads. And it just, I would really like to know, and obviously we will never know, from, some execs at Louis Vuitton, was this just a misstep? Were you just really not sure how it would go, and so you were hedging your bets and didn't want to maybe repeat what happened with the denim collection, which seemed to be a lot of hype, but then there were a lot of pieces left over from that? I mean, really, you didn't have a hard time getting pieces from the denim collection, so I don't know if maybe they were thinking, okay, we don't want a repeat of that, so we're not going to make as many pieces, and that way it'll look super, super popular. But yeah, I just think that they are going to have a lot of really angry clients and people that, as Lula said, who wanted to come back to the brand, who now are going to be pissed again because they weren't able to get the pieces that they had pre-ordered. And it's just, what a cluster. So in the meantime, I got a text last night. So when I'm filming this is a Tuesday. So now this is Monday. I'm talking about Monday the 6th. I got a text kind of late last night, like around 9 o'clock or so, New York time, from my Nordstrom sales associate saying, hey, do you still want the X bag? I was like, yes, I do. Because, like I said, I haven't heard anything about it, even though it's supposedly on order at Saks. I haven't received any notification that it's in. And yet now he's saying that I've got it. So my understanding, or what he said, is basically they are getting restocked on the 9th. And so I think that they are then filling orders based on a who paid first order, pre-order, are filling those. So like I said, clearly I didn't make the first cut, because whatever they ordered and, received for launch day, I was not a part of. But according to him, I am going to get the handbag. It should be rung up again, actually rung up. Even though it's already been rung up, they'll return it and then re-ring it on the 9th, which is Thursday. I will keep you posted. But at least to this point, I did buy an item that was not on my original list from Soho. I got the SLG that I was looking for from Saks on Saturday. I picked that up, so the day after launch. And then I feel fairly confident that I'm going to get the handbag, whether it be from Nordstrom, it gets fulfilled on Thursday, or from Saks, which again, it was supposedly ordered, so maybe that also will happen on Thursday. That'll be interesting if they both come in kind of at the same time. But anyway, let me know, guys. How was your experience? Did you go in store? Did you try to get something online? Did you pre-order? Have you heard anything? Have your orders been canceled? Are you kind of waiting? I have been told, and I've seen some, comments on Instagram from sales associates and things saying, don't cancel your order. Let it sit for a few weeks because, depending on returns and maybe if there are some restocks, that then your order may get filled. So just because it wasn't filled on launch day doesn't mean that there's no hope in getting the piece. So, if you're able to, leave your money sitting there for another few weeks to see if your order comes to fruition. So, but like I said, I would love to know your thoughts in the comments below. If you went through any of this process, let us know in the comments, how your experience was. Do you think Louis Vuitton will make any improvements on this process for the next 2 launches? Or do you think this was really kind of all intentional, like I sort of think it was? But conspiracy theory, here we go. Anyway, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you enjoy this kind of content, would love to see you back here. Click the subscribe button and the notification bell below. That way you know when I upload videos. If you want to keep on watching, there'll be another video over in the corner here for you to watch. And wherever you are, I hope you are having an amazing day or evening. And I will catch you in the next one. Bye, guys.